Hey everybody. So for the final episode of the year, we're going to do something a little different. It's like a spotlight on history, I'd say. I'm going to pick a couple historical figures in the past, real or legend, and tell you a little story about them, tell you what I know about them, tell you what I could find out about them, whether it's real or fake. No idea. With the rise of misinformation and disinformation, it's really hard to believe what's fucking real anymore. I hate that they're using fucking AI to make these fucking fake videos. Like, are you fucking serious? That's what we're wasting all our time, energy, and money on? Not to mention the life of our fucking planet? For a video of a fucking squirrel eating hot Cheetos? That ain't fucking worth it to me. Anyway, let's get to the show. The world doesn't know what the fuck it's looking at half the time. A goddamn legend can walk right in front of you, and instead of bowing your head or standing in awe, you whip out your little notepad or your phone and call her a curiosity, a sideshow. This is about one of those legends. A woman who walked the earth like a living monument, a pillar of strength, a descendant of warriors, and the world had the goddamn nerve to reduce her to a fucking postcard. Her name was Ella Abomah Williams. Madam fucking Abomah. And if you've never heard of her, that's by design. Let's set the scene. It's 1900. You got powdered European asses still clinging to their last century of colonial glory. The British Empire is stomping across Africa like it owns the soil. Meanwhile, they can't even manage decent plumbing at home. And in the middle of all this colonial masturbation, a photograph is taken. It shows a tall black woman. No, a titan, standing proud in a long Victorian dress. She's not a maid. She's not a background extra. And she's not a fucking curiosity. She was one of the personal bodyguards of the King of Dahomey. Or that's how the manager at the circus promoted her. She was born in South Carolina in 1865. The same year the US pretended to abolish slavery. And she came into a world that hated her before she even had a name. A world that wanted her to shut up, step aside, and shrink. But instead, she grew. And kept growing. A woman so strong she could lift a man with one arm. And so composed, she could do it without smudging her gloves. You know what pisses me off the most? It's not just that the West reduced her to a sideshow. It's that they pretended to admire her while secretly fearing her. The British press drooled over her height and dark beauty, like she was some exotic bird brought from the fucking jungle. They called her a giantess, a curiosity, a Negro wonder. Motherfucker, she wasn't a wonder. She was proof that their little myth about white superiority was a fucking lie. So what did they do? They threw a Victorian dress on her, tried to civilize her image, tried to fold her into the fantasy of what a refined African woman should look like. You see what colonialism does? It doesn't just conquer land. It conquers image. It rewrites your strength into a story they can sell. Ella didn't get to be a general. She got to be a postcard. Think about that. Ella didn't stay under anyone's thumb for long. She toured internationally. England, Germany, Brazil, Australia, goddamn Russia. People showed up by the hundreds to stare. But you know what? She taxed that ass. She took their ignorance and turned it into income. You think influencers invented this shit? Nah, fam. Madam Abomah was the original blueprint, setting her own rates, hiring managers, and keeping her dignity intact while the world tried to turn her into a fucking meme. She made thousands a month in the early 1900s. You hear me? That's motherfucking mansion money today. And she didn't need their respect. She took their cash. And that's gangster. You ever notice how history loves to lift up certain women? The gentle ones. The ones who smile through pain. The ones who stand by their men or die quietly for someone else's cause. But the tall ones, the strong ones, they disappear. They get papered over, ignored, edited out, or worse, turned into a footnote in some fucking dusty textbook. Ella Abomah Williams should be on murals. Her face should be on billboards next to Angela Davis and Harriet Tubman and fucking Wonder Woman. But instead, she's a punchline in a postcard, labeled a freak, a Negro novelty. And let me ask you a question. What does it mean when a woman like that, who carried a legacy of blood and brilliance, gets erased? What does it mean when a titan becomes trivia? It means the system is still doing its job, still shrinking the giants. But not today, not here, and not on this fucking podcast. Because Ella Abomah Williams wasn't a freak. She was a fucking monument, a protector, a goddess in a corset and boots. And she deserves to be remembered as loudly and unapologetically as she lived. So the next time someone tells you history is boring, tell them about the 8-foot Amazon who walked through Europe like a fucking skyscraper. Tell them her name, Ella Abomah Williams. And then look them in the eye and say, she would have picked your colonizing ass up with one hand and yeeted you into the sea. Ella Abomah Williams was not forgotten because history ran out of space. She wasn't lost due to poor record keeping. She wasn't overlooked because she wasn't important enough. She was erased because she was dangerous to the story. And when I say dangerous, I don't mean violent. I mean disruptive. She broke too many rules just by existing. Black, female, massive, strong, self-directed, financially independent, calm, and unapologetic. That combination is still radioactive today. So imagine how unacceptable it was in 1900. History doesn't reward truth. It rewards comfort. And Ella made people uncomfortable as fuck. And let's talk about that photograph again. The one everyone shares online like it's some fun fact. You see her standing there and people say, wow, she's tall. And then they move on. That's the problem. That photo isn't neutral. It's evidence of how power reframes threats into entertainment. Because if the public had understood who she actually was, they wouldn't have stared. They would have kept it pushing. And I want to fix the record right now. Because accuracy matters. And mythology can just be another form of erasure. Ella Abomah Williams was not a Dahomey Amazon. That story was a cover, a marketing angle, a costume stitched together to sell tickets to people who wouldn't pay to see a black woman unless she came wrapped in something savage, exotic, or safely fictional. And here's the fucking part that should piss you off. The lie worked. Not because Ella needed it to be powerful, but because the audience needed it to be comfortable. And that doesn't make her story any smaller. It makes it uglier. And way more honest. Ella was born in South Carolina, not Dahomey, not West Africa. The Amazon label wasn't heritage, it was branding. So let's stop pretending this was a misunderstanding. This was a transaction. Colonial audiences wanted danger without accountability. They wanted the thrill of African warriors without confronting the fact that their own systems had brutalized black people for centuries. It turned a real person into a character. And Madame Abomah understood the game better than anyone else. And that's the part people love to skip, because it complicates the narrative. She wasn't fooled, she wasn't naive, and she wasn't claiming something she didn't understand. She knew exactly what the crowd wanted, and she gave them just enough. If you tell them she's an Amazon, suddenly it's safe. Suddenly it's folklore. So the lie wasn't about her. It was about them. And here's where the rage really kicks in. Even with the fake backstory, they still refused to see her as human. They talked about her height. They talked about her skin. They talked about her strength. Never once asking what it takes to carry a body like that through a world designed to break it. She was dangerous because she was real. A real woman, making real money, refusing to be small. And history punished her for that. Because when the Amazon myth wore off, when people's tastes changed, when the crowds moved on to the next spectacle, Ella didn't get rewritten as a pioneer, or an athlete, or a businesswoman. She just vanished. The myth survived. The person didn't. And that's the system. It doesn't just exploit you. It discards you once you're no longer useful. And don't miss the modern parallel, because it's fucking screaming at you. We still do this. We build fake narratives around people so we don't have to deal with who they actually are. We exaggerate, or we flatten. We mythologize. Then, when the myth collapses, we act like the person never mattered in the first place. Ella Abomah Williams didn't need to be an Amazon to be extraordinary. She needed to be remembered as what she actually was. A black woman who learned how to bend a racist economy just enough to survive it without surrendering herself. And the fact that we're still untangling the lie tells you everything you need to know. This next one's definitely one of my favorites. I think you'll see why. So this next one's gonna piss people off. Because the fact that this story might be a legend is the indictment. People say her name was Josephine Boudreaux. She lived in Louisiana after the Civil War, during Reconstruction, when violence against black families was common and never punished. In 1868, members of the KKK killed her parents. They came at night. They didn't rob the house. They just killed them to make a point. Josephine survived. Some versions say she was not home. Other versions say she hid. The story's not consistent on that part. What stays the same is that her parents were dead and nothing happened afterwards. No one was arrested. No investigation went anywhere. The men responsible stayed free. After that, Josephine didn't leave the area right away. According to the legend, she stayed and paid attention. She learned who was involved. She learned which men were active in the local clan. She learned where they met and how they behaved when they felt safe. The story says she gained access to them by working around them, cleaning houses, running errands, being present in places where she was ignored. The men didn't see her as a threat. They talked around her like it was nothing. At some point, men in the local clan began to die. They were found in their beds at night. Their throats were cut. There were no signs of forced entry. No one reported seeing anything, and no witnesses ever came forward. The legend says this happened repeatedly, one by one, always at night, always quietly, never a witness. The number attached to the story is 11. 11 men described as local leaders or organizers. After these deaths, meetings stopped, the patrols stopped, the local chapter fell apart, and Josephine disappears from the story. Some versions say she left Louisiana. Some say she changed her name. Some say she was eventually killed. There is no agreement on what happened to her. There are no official records confirming these killings or naming Josephine Boudreaux. There are also no records explaining the sudden collapse of the local group. The story survived through oral retellings, passed down quietly. It was never treated as a public hero story. It was told as a warning and as an explanation for why the violence stopped. And that is the legend of Josephine Boudreaux. Say it with me slowly. When a society allows terror to operate openly, history stops being written in records and starts being written in whispers. Reconstruction, Louisiana was not a place where truth survived paperwork. Let's be honest and brutal about this. Josephine Boudreaux might not have existed as a single person. She might not have killed 11 men. She might be a composite. She might be exaggerated. She might be folklore. She might be a warning story told to keep Klansmen nervous. And that should terrify you far more than if she were real. Because legends do not emerge in functioning societies. Legends emerge where the law is a joke. You don't get stories like this unless something has gone catastrophically wrong. After the Civil War, America congratulated itself and then immediately abandoned black people to domestic terrorism. The KKK, better known as the Ku Klux Klan, was not rogue. It was tolerated, assisted, excused, and fucking normalized. Them cocksuckers still exist today. White newspapers did not investigate Klan murders. White courts did not prosecute them. White politicians did not stop them. Most likely because they were out riding with them. So history adapted. And instead of arrest records, you get stories. Instead of trials, you get legends. Instead of justice, you get warnings. And that's where Josephine Boudreaux lives. In the space where the archive is silent. Now let's talk about why people get so fucking mad about this story. It's not because of the violence. We consume violent history constantly. We cheer for it when it's sanctioned by the state. We make movies about it. But people get mad because this story breaks the rule. Suddenly, the terrorizers are afraid. Suddenly, the night isn't safe for the men who thought it belonged to them. And people hate that. Funny how those concerns never show up when the victims are the ones buried in unmarked graves. And let me be fucking clear. The KKK killed thousands. It's documented, sourced, and proven. Josephine Boudreaux allegedly killed 11, and it's debated. If Josephine is a legend, then she exists because real violence went unanswered. If Josephine is exaggerated, then exaggeration filled the gap where justice should have been. And if Josephine is fictional, then she is a fictional response to a very real terror campaign. And if she was real, the system made sure we'd never know. Either way, the story condemns the same thing. This is where I stop letting people hide behind academic language. History is not just what we can cite. History is also what scared people enough to remember. And Reconstruction, Louisiana was a place where memory was more accurate than the papers. Do you know how many black women's names from that era survive in official records? Almost none. Do you know how many black women's lives were erased? Countless. So when people say, this might just be a tall tale, my response is good. Ask why tall tales are necessary. I'm Cullen, and I'm done being polite. Take care. See you next year. Be safe. Hit that follow.